Okay, ladies and gents, let's work on this question paper. They want us to determine the values of x for which the following expressions are defined. So, to answer this first question, remember I have a square root and everything. If I have something like this, a square root of a, everything that inside the square root should be positive. So a must be greater or equals to 0. So if you need to determine the values where the expression are defined, in order for this to be defined, we need to take whatever that we have inside the bracket, the x minus 3, it must be greater or equal to 0, then we can solve. Therefore, when we solve, the 3 comes to the other side, x must be greater or equal to 3. So we just have to move the 3 to the other side, then it will change the sign from negative to positive. Then you are done answering that question. The next question, 1.1.2. So on this one we have 1 over x minus 3, and we know that if I have a fraction like this, a over b, so whatever that I have on the denominator must not be equal to 0, because if it's equals to 0, the equation will be undefined. So what we know is that we don't need 0, so we're going to say the denominator, the x minus 3, must not be equal to 0. Therefore, when you solve, what do we get? X must not be equal to 3. Because if x is 3, we're going to have a fraction like 1 over 3 minus 3, which gives us 1 over 0. And 1 over 0 is undefined. So for this to be defined, x must not be equal to 3. Okay, so you have 2 marks so far. Let's see what we have on 1.2. For which values of x will this be non-real? For which values of x will the equation be non-real? So now we know that if it's non-real, non-real, it's when whatever that I have inside the square root, it's less than 0, because we can't have the square root of a negative number. Then the square root of negative number, it's non-real. So this one won't be defined, so we need to prevent that. And then in order for this to be non-real, we need to say that 3x minus 1, let me equate this to 0 and solve for x. If we solve for x, 3x is equals to 1. Therefore, what is x? X is 1 over 3. So that's the value of x. And if we equate the denominator, it's x minus 1. This is equal to 0. Therefore, what is x equals to? It's 1. So now, if we need a negative number, x must be an element of what you got on top is the one that you'll write first, the small number. So x must be an element of that 1 over 3 is between 1 over 3, and you write the answer that you got when you equated your denominator to 0. So if x is an element of this, then we're going to have a non-real. We're going to have a non-real. And ladies and gents, this is how you answer questions that had to do with defined and non-real. Okay, so now the answer for 1.2 will be x must be an element of 1 over 3 and 1. So let's look at what we have this side. We are given the first question for 2 marks, and we need to solve for x. So if you look at this, I have the first product I'm going to call a, and the second factor I'm going to call b. So let's call these factors. So the zero product property, if I multiply 2 factors and they are equated to 0, we can say a is equals to 0, or we can say b is equals to 0. Right. So with that being said, what's next? We can take a. What is a? Is just x plus 1. We can equate it to 0, or we can take b, which is x minus 1 over 2, equate that to 0. When you solve, this side x is minus 1, the other side x is just 1 over 2. Then you'll definitely collect that 2 marks. You're going to get 1 mark for that, 1 mark for the other answer. Easy, right? So the next one, when you solve quadratic equation and you see the statement, correct your answer to 2 decimal place. They are asking you to use what? They are asking you to use the quadratic formula, and it goes like this. So this was 1.3.1. So to answer 1.3.2, we need to use the formula x is equals to minus b plus or minus the root of b squared minus 4ac, and everything is divided by 2a. Please make sure that when you do your substitution, the equation is in the standard form. When we say standard form, I'm sorry, that's not the question that we are working on. So we need to make sure that the equation is in the form of ax squared. So the equation should be in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c. So now we know what is the value of a. The value of a is 1. We know what is the value of b. The value of b is also 1, and c is minus 1. Then you can just quickly substitute and say this is minus inside the bracket the value of b, which is 1. Then you say plus or minus the root of b squared minus 4 into 1 into c, which is minus 1, and everything is divided by 2 into 1. So you just have to make sure that you put this in the calculator. So x is minus 1 plus or minus the square root of this. It's 1 squared plus 5 plus 4. So 1 squared plus 4 is just 5. So this will be the root of 5, and everything is divided by 2 into 1, which is just 2. So when you punch this on the calculator, we get x to be 0.62, or you get your value of x to be minus 1.62. And this question is now solved. So now make sure that when you substitute this, you do what we call the correct substitution. There's a mark for that, and then remember this is 4 marks. You're going to get a mark for x to be 0.62, another mark for x to be negative 0.2. So they might give you a mark for the formula, or they might give you a mark for the correct rounding. So the rounding should be correct. There's a mark for that. They might give you a mark or a mark for the formula, and this question is solved. Right, so if we continue on this, we can work on 1.3.3, which has to do with inequalities. So this is my 1.3.3. I'm given x squared minus 2x plus 1, and they say this is less than or equal to 0. So first thing first, let's factorize that. So when I factorize, I'll have x this side, x this side. So since it's 1, both of the brackets will have 1. So now the 1 is positive, both of the brackets will be negative. So what is my critical value? This will be less than or equal to 0. So we can write this as x minus 1. Everything squared is less than or equal to 0. So we can see that CV's critical value is just 1. So it's just positive 1. That's my critical value. It's just positive 1. So if the critical value is positive 1, you can draw the graph, or you can just go straight to the point and tell us what is your answer. So if I put 1 on my number line, like this, if this is 1, I can put it there, and then let us choose any number this side. I know this 0, and then we have 2 somewhere there. So I'm just gonna use 0 now on this equation, on the original equation, where there's x, let's put 0 and see what we get. So we get 0 squared minus 2 into 0 plus 1. So the answer is 1. The answer is positive. So this tells me that this side, going that side, our solution is positive. What do we get when we put 2 there? So that we can know the solution to the other side. So this will be 2 squared is 4 minus 2 times 2, that's 4. So we also get 1 and it's also positive the other side. And they ask us where is this less than 0. So we don't have uh, on the number line where our solution is 0. So we just have to take only this part. We can say x is equals to 1. Right, x is equals to 1. X must not be greater than 1. X must not be less than 1. So x should just be 1 because we don't have where the solution is what? The solution is negative. So you can just say x is equals to 1 and you will get a mark for that. So this is just 2 marks. So you'll get a mark for factors and a mark for the final answer. I hope you are happy with that. Né? So now let's try to answer this one, the 1.3.4. Let's see what we have on this one. So we are given, this is 1.3.4. We are given x plus 3 the root of x minus 1, and this is equated to 1. Let's try to arrange the equation. So if we arrange the equation, we can take the x to the other side and write this as 3. The root of x minus 1 is equals to 1 minus x. So now when it's like this, we can just square both sides, okay? Because we are trying to get rid of that square, we can square this side and we can also square that side. Let's see what we have. Remember, the square root of, if I say a multiplied by b, and this is squared, this is a squared times b squared. So this will be 3 squared, which is 9. Then the x minus 1 will cancel, the square root will cancel. I'll be left with 9 into x minus 1. This is equals to 1 minus x squared. So the 1 minus x, you need to expand the bracket. I'm not sure where we can work out that part because we don't have much space, but we need to expand the bracket. So what I need you to do, I need you to stop the lesson, expand the bracket, then let's see if we get the same answer. So this side I'll have 9x minus 9. It's equals to, if I expand the bracket, this gives me 1 minus 2x plus x squared. Right, so far so good. We just have to combine the like terms. We just have to combine the like terms. So this will be x squared. I just have to move everything to one side. X squared minus 2x minus 9. So the 9 will go to the other side to be negative, which will give us negative 11x. Then I still have I'm sorry, we still have that 1. The 9 will go to the other side to be positive, which will give us 10. Please make sure that you pause the lesson, you go through all the steps and verify if the expanding the brackets was correct, and also verify if we did add the like terms correctly. So when it's like this, I can just factorize this because I know that the factors of 10, that when we add or subtract them, they give us middle number of 11 is just 10 and 1. So since it's positive, both of them will be negative, and this is just equal to 0. So now we're going to say x it's equals to 10 if we solve, or x it's equals to 1. This is not the end. This is not the step where you stop. You need to do what? You need to check your solution because we are working with the square root. You need to check because it might happen that you reject a value. You might reject something here. So look at this. I have, where there's x, we can put 10 and see if this is equals to 1. Where there's x, you put 10 and see if this is equal to 1. So you're going to see that somewhere, somehow, we're going to reject. Unfortunately, we don't have much space, but let's test for this one first. Where there's x, I put 1. So this will be 1 plus 3, the root of 1 minus 1. So I know that the root of 1 minus 1 is 0. Anything multiplied by 0 is 0. So 3 times the root of 1 minus 1 is just 0. This will give me 1 is equals to 1. Therefore, left-hand side is equals to right-hand side. We'll take that one. But when you substitute x, you'll find that for this one, left-hand side, for this one, your left-hand side is not equals to your right-hand side. Therefore, we need to reject and say x must not be equal to 10. So this one, x must not be equal to 10. We need to reject it. Okay, I hope everyone is happy with that. Ne? I hope everyone is happy with that. Now let's look at the last question, which is 1.3.5. So we have 3 to the power x plus 3 to the power x plus 3 to the power x is equal to 3 to the power 4. We'll work that on the next lesson, on the next slide, before we work on simultaneous equation. Okay, let's work on that question first. Before we do the simultaneous, we have 3 to the x plus 3 to the x plus 3 to the x, and this is equal to 3 to the power 4. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to have the 3 to the x out as a common factor. I'm going to take it out as a common factor, and where there's 3 to the x, I can substitute what? 1. So we need to replace the 3 to the x by 1 because we have it out as a common factor. So this will be 1 plus 1 plus 1 is equals to 3 to the power 4. So now this is 3 to the x. Inside the bracket we have 1 plus 1 plus 1 is just 3, and this is equated to 3 to the power 4. So we can divide both sides by 3. Divide both sides by 3. So let's take this problem down there. This will be 3 to the x. It's equals to we are dividing the same base. Remember, this is 3 to the power 1. Eh? So we are dividing the same base. We're going to subtract the exponent. This is 3 to the power 4 minus 1, which is just 3 to the x. It's equal to 3 to the power 3. The base are the same. We can drop them and equate the exponent. So x is just 3. So x is just 3. And that's it. When you have it like this, then you will have all those marks. Né? You will have all the marks. Let's look at the last one, which is a simultaneous equation. When you work with simultaneous equation, we need to choose the equation that is more simple, and then we need to manipulate that equation to make one variable subject of the formula. So when I look at this, let's say this is my equation 1, let's say this is my equation 2. So I can manipulate that second equation and make x subject of the formula. So I can write this as negative x, it's equals to 6 minus 2y, because I can move the 2y to the other side. But now I need to divide everything by x to make x subject of the formula. So this is the same as writing this and say this is 2y minus 6. And let's call this equation 3. So now that we know what is x, we can substitute x in equation 1. So we can sub in equation 3 into equation 1. So where there's x, we can put 2y minus 6. Let us quickly do that. So we're going to have 2y minus 6 squared plus 2y into 2 y minus 6, and this is equal to 3y squared. So what we did is that where there's x, we substituted 2y minus 6. So now we need to expand the bracket this side. 2y minus 6 into 2y minus 6 plus 2y into 2y minus 6. This is just 3y squared. So let's multiply out the brackets and add the like terms. So 2y times 2y, that will give us 4y squared. 2y times minus 6, it's minus 12y. But if we add the like terms, this will give us minus 24y plus 6 times 6, which is 36. Then we're going to add the 2y times 2y, which is 4y squared, minus 2y times 6 times negative 6. This will give us minus 12y. And this is equals to 3y squared. Please make sure that you pause the lesson, you multiply out the brackets correctly, and check if you get the same thing that I got on my side. So I'm going to identify the like terms here. I'm going to identify the like terms and see if we can combine those like terms. We have 4y squared and 4y squared, which is 8y squared. But remember, we still have the 3y squared that will come to the other side to be negative 3y squared. So what I'm trying to say is that it will be 8y squared, but we still have to subtract the 3y squared, which will give us 5y squared. Then now I have minus 24 and I have minus 12. Minus 24 minus 12. So those two will give us 36. So this will be negative 36y. Then we have 36 and what? Oh, it's just plus 36, right? So this is plus 36 and this is equals to 0. Right, so now we can factorize this. I think it will be easy for us to factorize this guy. This is equal to 0, so this will be 5y y. And then the factors of 36, that when you add or subtract them, okay, the factors of 36, since we have 5y, is going to be 6 and 6. Since it's positive, both of them should be negative. So this will be negative, negative. And now we need to solve. We need to take the 5y minus 6 equated to 0, or we take the y minus 6 and also equate it to 0. Let's see what we get. What is y this side? It's 6 over 5. And what is y on the other side? Is just 6. So now we have the y values. We need to find the corresponding x value using what? Using that equation 3. So remember, we know what is x. X is equal to 2y minus 6. So x will be 2, where there's y, I need to put 6 over 5 minus 6. Then you just have to punch this on the calculator, and we get this to be minus 18 over 5. So, or for x it's equals to 2y minus 6, we can substitute y to be 6 instead. So 2 times 6 is 12 minus 6, this is just 6. So the corresponding x value is 6 and minus 18 over 5. Right, with simultaneous equation, they're going to give you a mark for making x subject of the formula. There's a mark for that, and make sure that your substitute into the equation 2 is correct. There's another mark for that. And then the standard form, this part here, the standard form, make sure that this is correct, because there's also another mark for that. So there's another mark for factors, and there's another mark for both y values, and the last mark will be for both x values. Then you have all the 6 marks. I hope you enjoyed the lesson on how to answer question 1 of grade 11. Right, so if you did enjoy the lesson, make sure that you like the lesson, subscribe so that you don't miss our next lesson. Thank you very much.